to those warnings from Victoria's Country Fire Authority that this summer is looming as the state's most dangerous bushfire season since Black Saturday. It says record low rainfall and drought has created extreme fire risk across much of the state. Jason Heffernan, CEO of CFA Victoria, and he joins me now in the studio. You wouldn't know it from all the rain we've had in Melbourne over the last couple of
It happens every year, Peter.
weeks.
I start talking about the summer, what is it looking like, and without fail, it rains.
Here we are, rain.
We are, rain again.
You know, as I get around the country, most of my family live in the bush. I'm seeing that there's plenty of, stuff out there in paddocks and along the fire causeways and by the side of the road. And you're concerned with that build-up of fuel and a lack of rainfall, we're in trouble.
Yeah, a number of concerns for Victoria. We saw the spring outlook release, not at the beginning of spring, which saw over 50% of the state at elevated bushfire potential, and that was largely driven by the rainfall deficit. Off the back of summer, we went into winter, record deficit rainfalls for many parts of Victoria. And then in early spring, still that rainfall deficit continued. So a lot of our farmers, particularly our drought-affected areas, obviously suffering. We saw the dry landscape there, but a little closer to home to Melbourne as well. So particularly Melbourne and surrounds and down the Mornington Peninsula. And when you look in the 9 month, look back in 9 months, they're some of the driest on records, particularly for some of the subsoil dryness. So what that means is that particularly during summer and winter, we saw a lot of dieback of vegetation in the bushland. Once vegetation's dead, it's dead. No amount of rain's going to bring that back. So that's now fuel that's available now, today. And as we continue to see those rainfall deficits, the bushland was, I guess, primed and continues to be primed. The rain that we're seeing at the moment, whilst very welcome, and I really do hope it does continue, is really just hit the pause button for a few weeks. But it's nowhere near enough to bring us back to normal levels of those rainfall deficits that we are looking at. So when we start getting those warmer days, when we start seeing more wind and those lower humidities, we will start to see an increase in fires in bushland areas. And even this week, with some of the rain that we have seen, the harvest has started in the Mallee. We've already seen a number of harvest fires already ignite and take off. So, yes, I appreciate it's raining and people are looking out the window sort of going, what's Jason going on about again? But, I am quite concerned when we look at the underlying dryness and the deficits.
Okay, so a couple of things here. Have you got enough volunteers? Have you got enough trucks and kit and appliances? Because that's been a criticism, certainly of the Firefighters Union. They say the resourcing's down, they're not happy about the levy. I went to a CFA rally on the steps of Parliament. There were a good 80,000 people there with their trucks, fired up about their communities, not happy to both pay the levy, but also be on the front line fighting the fires.
So I guess let's talk about volunteer numbers first. I do get asked that quite a bit. Volunteer numbers naturally fluctuate, and we see that because people's circumstances change. We see people come into the fire service, participate for a period of time, leave for university, or as I say, life happens. And then we see them come back into the organisation a bit later in life. And so we're holding it steady at around 52,000 volunteers across the state, of which some 29,000 of them are operational. And we do expect to see that go up and down, which is why, from a CFA perspective, we need to make sure that we're always recruiting and renewing our organisation and finding the next generation of CFA volunteers to come into our organisation so that we are and continue to be a sustainable organisation into the future. If I move on to trucks and equipment, obviously, as you say, the United Firefighters Union has been advocating for their career firefighters. That's a matter for the United Firefighters Union and the career fire services. But from the CFA perspective, what I can tell you is, in my time as Chief Officer, we've rolled out near 300 appliances to brigades across the state. We've got 175 appliances today on order, some $81.5 million worth of appliances that will continue to roll out to our brigade.
Just quickly, because I'll have to get onto another topic, but time comes up, this quite frequently, the line that there is not enough backburning done. I spoke to the Howard Society the other day. It's exacerbated in Victoria because a lot of those timber workers out the Gippsland areas that maintained fire tracks, that did some of that burning, they no longer exist. Timber has been shut down as an industry. They say that makes us more vulnerable. What do you think?
Oh, look, I think issues around public lands and those areas, are looked after by our very capable colleagues at Forest Fire Management Victoria. And I know I speak to the Chief Officer there quite regularly, and he's very conscious about making sure that our public lands are ready for upcoming seasons. There's a lot of conversation around planned burning and hazard reduction and mitigation. My response to that would be it is but one of the tool in the toolkit that we have for protecting Victorian communities from devastating fires and summers. It needs to be combined with a strategy of public education and other prevention strategies. And it's a shared responsibility between community, land managers, landowners and fire services that come together, work together in order to make sure that we are ready for a summer.
Yeah, well, no state in the country has had the loss of life that Victoria has, so it's a topical conversation, one we've got to have, and I think it's a real concern if you're already talking about it now in a wet Melbourne week to say we should be concerned. We are. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.